My name is June Alvarez. I'm 32 years old. And last August, at my grandfather's 88th birthday dinner, my own mother looked me straight across his Formica table and called me delusional for keeping the gift he handed me. The gift was a check for $3.7 million. My older brother Caleb laughed, folded his into a paper airplane, and sailed it straight into the Weber grill where it caught and blackened. My sister Tessa ripped hers clean in half and slid it under her wine glass to catch the ring. My mother didn't even open hers all the way. She crumpled it one-handed and dropped it in the kitchen trash on top of the cake frosting like it was a junk mail coupon. I was the only one who put mine in the zip pocket of my scrubs and said, "Thank you, Poppy." The next morning, the manager at Coastal Community Bank in Astoria locked his office door behind us, laid the check on his desk with 2 fingers like it might bite him, looked at me, and said 4 words I will never forget. My family spent the next 10 months trying to steal back what they'd laughed at, and what they did to get it cost them everything they thought they were entitled to. Before we go on, please subscribe and like this video, my dear listeners. Your support motivates me to tell even more engaging stories. Now, let me take you back to the Thursday before his birthday, to the last summer my grandfather ever saw. My grandfather never locked his back gate. Not in 52 years. And that August the house smelled exactly the same as it did when I was 7, and he'd let me sort nuts and bolts in coffee cans in his garage. It smelled like sawdust and WD-40 and the basil plant he kept on the windowsill that he watered with leftover coffee. I came up the gravel drive in my beat-up Honda with a quart container of chicken tortilla soup from the hospital cafeteria because Thursdays were his chemo-free days and soup was the only thing he could keep down. He met me at the screen door in his blue flannel shirt with the frayed cuffs. He'd worn that same shirt since my grandma died in 2009. He put one hand on my cheek, the way he always did, like he was checking my temperature without a thermometer. "Tell me about the ER," he said. He said it every Thursday. He always meant it. We sat at the kitchen table with 2 mugs that didn't match. One had a lighthouse on it, chipped on the handle. I told him about a boy named Milo, 8 years old, who came in after a bike wreck and wouldn't let anyone touch his left arm until I let him hold my stethoscope first. Poppy listened with his whole face. He asked what I thought Milo needed. I said, someone to wait. He said, then you wait. He was working on a tiny wooden birdhouse, the kind for wrens. He wouldn't let me see the inside. I was trying to darn a hole in my work scrubs badly. Outside the window, the hummingbird he fed came to the feeder, hovered for exactly 3 seconds, and left. He watched it like it was a bus he was expecting. When I left, he pressed a folded 20 into my palm on the porch. He gave me the same 20 every week, and I never spent it. I kept them in an Altoids tin in my glove box because what he was giving me wasn't gas money. I didn't know it yet, but that was the 4th to last Thursday I would ever have with him. I drove back down Highway 101 with the windows down. My mother never called to ask how I was. She called to tell me how she was and to audit what I had. She caught me 10 minutes out of town, Bluetooth crackling. "Junie, honey, are you up at your grandfather's again?" That was what my mother called her own father. Never Dad, never Poppy, never Leo. Your grandfather. "I go on Thursdays, Mom." Every Thursday, I said. She sighed the way she sighed when she wanted me to feel guilty for being decent. "He's fine, sweetheart. He has his Social Security. Caleb needs a ride to the DMV tomorrow morning. His license is suspended again. Can you take him?" "I have a 12-hour shift tomorrow,
Hola a
Mom."
todos,
"Well,
muchas
afternoon
gracias.
then.
No,
He's your
Maite, a ver,
brother."
gracias,
My
tío.
sister
Me
Tessa
voy súper
texted while I
básica,
was
voy de
still on the
blanco,
phone.
literal.
She
Los
lived in
pantalones de
Portland with a
pijama
boyfriend she
de
called her fiancé every
del
other month.
hospital
"Hey
y la
Junebug, can you
camiseta, tío.
Venmo me
Voy normal.
$300
Pero
just till
muchas
Friday?"
gracias.
Car
¿Qué
insurance
tal?
had
¿Cómo se ha ido
followed
este
by 3
Pomodoro?
praying
Yo la
hands.
verdad estoy
My mother kept
existiendo.
talking over the
He hecho
silence.
la llamada del
"Birthday
IKEA
dinner.
porque
Your father
sabéis
wants
lo del
carne
tema de
asada.
campana
Make sure
extractora,
Poppy doesn't cook
¿sabéis?
all day, June.
Y,
He gets so
y nada,
tired and then he
entonces
just sits
no
there
hemos
staring at
encontrado lo que
us.
teníamos que encontrar para
Nobody
arreglarla,
asked if his
entonces
cough
vamos
was
a proceder a
worse.
cambiarla.
Nobody asked why his
Esperemos
hand
que
shook when he lifted the lighthouse
todo
mug.
salga bien.
Nobody
Van a venir
asked
a
why he'd
entregarla
started
el
wearing
29 y
long
el 30
sleeves
la
in
instalan.
August. I made a
Entonces,
small
nada,
decision
estoy
on a
feliz porque
damp
estoy
coastal road
más
that I didn't
tranquila por esa
explain to
parte
myself until
y
much
esto.
later. I'll
Ay,
see
media
you
me
on
tengo
his
que ir, que
birthday,
tengo
I
que llevar a mi
said.
perrita a
And
operarla.
June,
Tenemos foto,
my
por favor.
mother's voice
Tenemos
dropped into the
foto
tone she used for
después de la
wisdom. Don't
apelación,
let him
tío.
guilt you into moving in.
Pues me están
He
mandando
has his
cosillas, así que
pride,
estudio
but he'll
poco.
take
Bueno, no
advantage of
pasa nada.
yours.
Algo
I
estudias
hung
y
up.
bueno,
My
trabajas y ya está
father
ahí la
hadn't been
vida.
on the line, but
¿Qué
I
pasa?
could hear him
Esa mía
anyway.
creo.
The
Carlos,
way
no
you
nos has
hear a
enviado ninguna
refrigerator
foto de tu
hum in a
perro.
house you grew
Eso es
up
una falta
in.
de
He'd
respeto.
been telling me for
Tienes que
years not to
pasar.
let Poppy play the poor
Es
old
una
man
bestia.
card.
Me encanta,
He
tío.
used phrases like
Muy,
that.
sí,
I had
Eso ha
never
sido
once in my life
súper,
seen my
súper
grandfather try to play a single person. The first thing my
obediente,
grandfather
tío.
asked
Voy
me
a
to
parar de comer ahora,
promise
vuelvo.
was not
Genial,
to save
genial.
his life. It was to keep
Ay,
his secret. He
voy a
told me on
ponerlo
a
a cargar porque
Thursday at
después
the
me
end of May
voy
in
y
his
si lo
garage
tengo
while we
tieso,
were
pues
oiling his
como que
old
no.
push mower. The light was that low gold
También
you
tenía
only
gata, pero
get
se
in
murió.
Oregon
¡Ay,
in
my
late spring.
Sheila!
You
Pasa
remember
foto de la
Dr.
gata
Chin,
también,
he
por
said.
favor, tío.
Of course.
Ay,
Lung, I asked.
pobrecillo.
He nodded
Bueno, no pasa
once.
nada, no pasa
Stage 4.
nada.
Non-small cell.
El ciclo de la
I've known
vida
since March.
y eso, y
The
bueno,
workbench
y
felt
que
like
no
it
sé,
tilted.
no sé qué decir
I
en
didn't
estas cosas, la
cry.
verdad, ¿eh? De
I
verdad
think
que
some
yo no
part
sé
of
qué
me had
decir.
known for months from the way his
Pero
soup
bueno,
went
estás bien,
untouched.
supongo, o no.
Chemo?
O aún
I
no,
asked.
no sé.
He shook his head.
Que,
No.
eso da un
I'd
poco de
like to
miedo.
spend
Qué
what I
pena,
have
por
here
favor.
in this
Es verdad,
garage
es
at
que
the
es verdad.
kitchen table with you on Thursdays, not in
Yo
a
estoy
chair with a
preparada
bag.
para cuando se me mueran mis
Poppy,
gatos.
you're 88.
Entonces, no sé,
June,
es que no
I
sé
have
qué
had a
decir.
very long, very lucky
David
life.
por la
He
mañana,
took my hand.
wow. ¿Qué
His
tal,
fingers were
David? ¿Qué tal el
cold
pomo?
but
Pues
steady.
he hecho
I
llamadas
am
al
not
Ikea.
sad.
¿Qué te parece?
I
No he
am
estudiado
sorting.
nada.
He pulled
La
a sprig
vida.
of basil off the plant and pressed it into my palm. I can still smell
Madre.
it. I have one thing to ask you, he said.
Quiero ver si han
Don't
mandado
tell
foto.
them.
Sí, han
Poppy,
mandado foto.
I want one more birthday to be a birthday. I do not
Me
want it to be a
encanta
hospice
Carmen,
intake.
tío.
I do
Oh,
not want your mother
me
planning my eulogy
encanta,
over cake.
tío.
He got that
Qué
glint, the one that
monada.
meant he was about to say something that would leave a mark. Besides, he
Esa
said,
foto
I have a few things to
es
give
que
out
me
first.
encanta, es
It's going to be a
preciosa,
very interesting
Dios.
birthday. I didn't sleep that night. Every member of my family walked into my grandfather's house that Saturday in August with a
Ay, me
shopping list
encanta,
in
os
their
lo
head
prometo.
disguised as
Ay.
affection. My mother came
No
in
pasa nada, al
first,
siguiente con
already
más power.
appraising.
Sí,
Oh,
efectivamente.
Poppy, the
Vamos
hydrangeas
a
are
intentar
darling
hacerlo
this
lo
year,
mejor que se
she
pueda en estos
said,
3 pomos
while
que me
her
quedan.
eyes moved
Yo
across
dije
the
que llevo
chipped
vino por un
paint
amigo. No
and
me
the
escuchas.
old craftsman
Ayer
tools
había
hanging on the
mucho
garage
mensaje, ¿vale? Lo
wall,
siento.
counting.
Lo
My
siento,
dad
la
came in
vida,
behind
¿vale?
her,
Pero bueno,
opened
está
the
muy bien que
fridge
estés
without
por
asking.
aquí.
Caleb brought his friend, who vaped on the porch and barely said
Ay,
hello
me
to Poppy.
encanta.
He did say hello to me. Still wiping butts at the hospital, huh? When are you gonna get a real nursing job, like in plastics?
Qué
He grinned
bonito,
like
de
it was a
verdad.
joke. It wasn't. Tessa
Por
arrived
favor, qué
last,
cara.
phone
Ay, me
already up.
encanta. Te miro
Grandpa
un
Core
poco con
birthday
cara de
vibes, my
enfadada,
loves.
pero bueno,
You have
no
to
pasa
see this
nada.
vintage kitchen. She did not hug Poppy. She kissed the air near his cheek. Poppy moved slowly from the stove to
Está
the table in
enfadada.
his blue flannel. He did not
No
say
sé.
much.
¿Qué le has
He
hecho,
watched
Carlos?
his
¿Qué le
family
has
with the
hecho?
calm, attentive look I'd seen him wear for 30
Ay, nada.
years. The look
Y
of a
pues
man
eso,
who had long
algo habrá
ago
hecho
stopped
Carlos.
being surprised. He caught my eye once and he
Y nada,
smiled,
chicos,
like
pues
he
la
was in
vida.
on a
¿Qué me
joke with
contáis? ¿Qué
someone
vais a
who
hacer
hadn't
hoy,
arrived
aparte de
yet.
estudiar?
His best friend,
Otra
Mr.
vez
Abe
no me he
Park,
vuelto a enterar
who'd
del
owned the
descanso.
hardware store on Marine Drive since
Aún tienes 5
1971,
minutos y
stopped by
48
with a bag of
segundos.
tomatoes
Hay que
and
disfrutar
stayed
la
for
vida,
10
no me
minutes.
escuchas.
Before he left,
Que
he
no,
touched my
que
arm in
no,
the hallway.
pobrecillo,
You are the
tío.
only one he ever talks about, Abe
No,
said.
en
You
plan,
know that, I hope.
es que no
Dinner
tengo
was
con
carne
quién defenderme, la
asada.
verdad.
Poppy pulled a small cedar box from beside his chair and set it on the table where nobody
Es por
noticed.
aquí, sí,
He
nosotras, eso
waited
es verdad,
until
eso
everyone
eres
had eaten. He stood up
sadomasoquista, ¿no?
slowly with one
Te
hand
gusta
on the
estar
back
aquí,
of his
tío.
chair. I have
Acéptalo.
something I'd like to give each
Estudiar
of you,
por la
he
luz
said.
que me trae, me encanta,
Caleb
tío.
rolled his eyes at Tessa. Tessa rolled hers back.
¿Por qué se
Poppy
me pilla
opened
mal
the
al
cedar
Ikea? Pues por la
box.
extractora
He took
esta
out 4
que
envelopes,
hemos
cream-colored,
intentado buscar
unsealed,
las
and
piezas
he walked each one
correspondientes
around the table. Mine was last.
para no tener
He
que cambiar
touched my
todo en la
shoulder when he
extractora.
set it down.
Ujú.
My mother
Y pues
opened
nada, y
hers
pues
first.
básicamente
I watched her face go from expectation to
lo que ha
confusion to
pasado ha sido
something tight.
que no hemos encontrado
Inside
las
was a
piezas, no
check
hemos hecho nada.
from Coastal Community
O
Bank,
sea, no hemos hecho nada,
made
no.
out
He
in my
hecho yo todo
grandfather's
y nadie
shaky
más ha
blue
hecho
ink,
nada y
for
pues como que no hemos encontrado las
$3,700,000.
piezas, hemos
Caleb
intentado
laughed before
enviarlas a un
he'd
sitio
even
para
read his.
imprimir
Poppy,
las
is
3D.
this
El
Monopoly
problema es
money?
que como
You
están
printing cash in the
fundidas,
garage now.
las piezas no se
Tessa
pueden medir,
giggled
entonces
and
no las
held
pueden
hers up to the
hacer.
light. My dad's face
Entonces
did something
tenemos que
strange. For
cambiarlo
a
todo.
second, he looked
Pero
like like
no
a
lo
kid
pagamos
handed a
nosotros, lo paga la
kindness
persona que
he
lo ha
didn't know
roto.
how to hold. Then my
Y
mother
me decía,
said,
mira, Carmen,
loud
está
and flat,
desubicadísimo.
it's fake. Don't be an idiot, June.
Enfadada, tío.
She dropped
Carmen
hers onto her
está
plate.
flying
Carne
por la
asada
vida.
juice soaked the
La pongo
corner.
familia, la pongo
My
familia. Es
dad
que le
tore
dije
his in
lo de
half
familia.
slowly and set the
Adoro, tío,
halves
qué
beside his
bonito.
beer. Dad,
David, en
really?
plan, bueno, pues
It's
aquí me
not
pega
funny.
el tío, pero
Caleb
me
crumpled
quedo
his into
aquí,
a ball,
¿sabes?
walked to
No
the
le
grill on
pegamos,
the
para la
deck,
gente que lo
and
sepa.
flicked it in. It flared.
Sí,
Tessa
tío,
ripped hers
está
and used it
está
as a
flying
coaster.
por la vida.
Poppy did
No sé
not
qué se habrá
blink.
tomado esta
He
mañana,
looked
pero
only at me.
algo
I
muy,
took
muy
mine.
gracioso, sí.
I folded it once and slid it
Carmen
into the
está full
zip
focus
pocket
por la
of my
estudiación,
scrubs.
efectivamente.
Thank
Es
you,
que hay que
Poppy, I
ponerse full
said.
focus.
He nodded. Just once. I drove home that night holding the wheel the way you hold a railing during a code blue. The fog was
Ay,
coming in heavy.
Carlitos.
The wipers had that uneven rhythm I've learned to find comforting. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Poppy had watched 3 of his children and his grandson mock him to his face, and he had not blinked. He was not senile.
Ay, Don, es que
He was
vas muy
the
rápido y
sharpest
seleccionado
person
mal el
I'd ever
mensaje.
known. He did
Me
the New
encanta,
York
tío.
Times
De momento
crossword in pen.
recuperamos.
He beat me at gin
Normal, es que
rummy
esto es
every
más...
second week.
Es que
2
esto
weeks
es
before
más
his
el chat
birthday,
Baywatch,
in the
tío.
garage, he'd
Ayer
asked me
estuve
a question that
haciendo
had
un daily
seemed odd
vlog
at the time.
que
If you had $1
es
million,
para, bueno, ya para
June,
mañana,
what would you
porque
do
hoy tengo
first?
otra cosa que
I'd
subir.
laughed. I don't
Y,
know.
tío,
Get new
he
compression
escuchado
socks for the
que se me
unit.
escuchaba
And
raro,
maybe
en
fresh
plan en el
pillows for the
móvil.
break
No he
room.
mirado en
He nodded like I'd said the right
no he
thing on a
mirado en
test.
mi...
At home, I put the check on my
en, ¿cómo
kitchen
se llama?
counter
En
under
el
the
ordenador,
fluorescent light.
pero
The
se
paper
escuchaba
was
un
heavy.
poco
The
rarete.
watermark moved like oil when I tilted it. The routing number matched Coastal Community, which I'd walked past every day for 6 years.
Mira esto.
The signature was his, the same signature I'd seen on every birthday card. I turned it over.
Digo, tengo que
On the
hacer algo,
back,
ya no me
in
acuerdo
his
qué
same
es.
blue ink, he'd
Efectivamente,
written,
pasaros el
"For the
link.
girl who still brings soup on Thursdays." I sat down on the kitchen floor. I sat there a long time. In the morning, I would go to the bank,
David,
not to cash it, just to
métete.
ask.
Ya no sabía si te
The
llamabas
manager
David, tío.
at Coastal
Me he
Community
bugueado por
had
un
known
momento,
me
ha
since
sido
I
como,
was 16
hostia,
and opened my
¿sabes?
first
En
savings
plan,
with
sé que se llama
babysitting
David, pero me he
money.
bugueado.
His name was Martin Cho.
David,
He had a small
métete.
glass turtle on his desk.
No te lo
He
repito,
smiled
tío.
when he saw me come in. He did not smile a minute later.
David,
Mr. Cho, I'm
gracias.
sorry to bother you the day after. I slid
Pero
the
ha sido
paper
muy amable por
across.
su parte.
I just wanted to verify this. My grandfather gave it to me. He looked at it. His smile
Sí que me lo sé,
hesitated.
tío, pero...
Then something
Pero
behind
es que
his
te
eyes
prometo que ha habido un
flipped,
momento en el
and
que he
he picked
dicho,
the check
mira
up with
aquí
both
esa.
hands, and his face went the color of printer paper. June, he said my
Conchis.
name the way a charge nurse does. Can you come with me a minute? He walked past the tellers, past the fake ficus, and opened a small private room. He held the door. He shut it. He turned the little latch. Is it real? I asked. He sat across from me. He folded his hands. June, it's all real. Those were the 4 words. He took a breath. Your grandfather came in the first week of April. He moved funds into a designated account. He had 4 of these drafted. I
Qué
printed them
felicidad, Carmen,
myself,
¿no?
June.
Es una muy buena
They are as
noticia.
real as this table. I counted backward
Pero bueno,
from 10
ve
the way
y que te
I tell my
revisen esos
patients
ojos.
to breathe. And this is only part of it, Martin said quietly. There's a lawyer named Ms. Evelyn Hart who will be in touch. I'm not supposed to say more. I walked out of the bank with $3.7 million in my account and a feeling already that it was not going to be the thing that changed my life that week. I drove straight to Poppy's house. He was in the kitchen.
Eso, tío.
He had tea on. He was not surprised to see me.
Carlos, tú ya
You went
estás
to
en
the
la edad
bank?
en la que te
Yes.
duele la
Was
espalda,
Martin
te
nice to
duelen
you?
las
He was terrified.
articulaciones.
He smiled into his
¿Sabes?
lighthouse mug.
Es broma, ¿eh?
He pushed a
Tengo
second
miopía de
mug across.
estigmatismo. Carmen,
Sit,
somos
Mija.
twins.
I
Yo tengo
sat.
que ir también,
Your
pero
grandma
no sé si
left
es
me
por estigmatismo o por
$80,000
miopía.
in
Yo creo que es más
2009,
miopía que otra
he
cosa.
said, and a house and a garage. I did not know what to do with
Me
any
van
of
a dar
it.
un perro de
I
las
was
11 a este
72.
paso.
I had been a mechanic for 40
Un
years.
perro de las
I had never bought a
Que también
stock.
pongan a dormir
So
a
I went to the library. I read. I wrote letters to a woman in Portland. She ran a small investment co-op. Her name was Ruth. We corresponded for 12 years. I never met her. She died in 2021. He paused. She left me a share of her land holdings. Poppy, I have roughly $28 million, June. Give or take a windy
Le voy a
day.
bajar un poco,
I
tío.
set
Está
my
súper
tea
alto el
down.
tintín.
Why didn't you ever? Because
esto?
nobody ever
¿El qué?
asked,
¿Qué
he
ha
said
pasado?
without bitterness. Your mother
Ay.
asked me once in 2011 if I needed her to manage my money. I said no. She never asked again. She didn't ask because she
David, no
wanted to
podrías
help.
haber puesto algo más
She
bonito,
asked
¿no?
because she
Tienes que
wanted to
poner eso
control.
justo.
I am not obliged to hand my life over. He reached across and squeezed my hand. I didn't give them money last night, June. I gave them a last chance to ask me why. And they didn't ask.
Si no me llaman,
It took exactly
nos vemos el siguiente
97
descanso.
minutes for
Muchas
my
gracias,
family
Carlos.
to
Mucho
stop
ánimo, que
calling
tú
that check
puedes.
fake and start
Poco a
calling it
poco.
theirs. Martin had to make a
He
compliance
tenido que
call.
poner esa
He
palabra
called my
porque no
mother
sabía más.
because she was still listed on an old joint account from 1998. The first call came while I was still in Poppy's kitchen. Then another, then another. My phone buzzed 28 times in an hour. Tessa's texts. OMG Junebug, I was kidding LOL, I need mine back ASAP please rent is do be fair family is family. Caleb's voicemail, louder. You give that back. That's family money, you little leech. You hear me? My mother's voicemail, crying her performance cry, Junie, sweetheart, you don't understand what you're doing to this family. Poppy was calm. He was eating toast. I'm going to turn this off, I said. Good. The knocking started 30 minutes later. My mother. I saw her Subaru pull up. Poppy stood up slowly and walked to the front door. He did not open it. He stood behind the screen. Mom, open the door. Dad, it's hot out here. Dad, you gave her $3.7 million. I gave each of you $3.7 million. 3 of you burned it. Dad. Linda, go home. He did not raise his voice. I'll see you when I see you. He turned the deadbolt for the first time in 52 years. The week Poppy broke his wrist was the week I stopped pretending I was going to get to keep him. It happened in the garage in late September. He slipped reaching for a wrench. He lay there for 20 minutes before Abe, dropping off tomatoes, found him. The hospital wanted to admit him. He wanted hospice at home. He'd written the paperwork 3 months earlier, and Evelyn Hart had notarized it. I asked for a leave from St. Mary's. My nurse manager, a quiet woman named Karen, looked at me and said, you take whatever time you need, June. You come back when you come back. I moved into Poppy's spare bedroom. I set up a monitor. Abe drove my things over and did not ask a single intrusive question. My mother visited once. She stayed 15 minutes. She told Poppy he should let Caleb move in to help. He said, Linda, I am home. She did not come back. Each night I read to him. He liked Steinbeck. I read slowly. The mint tea on his nightstand would skin over because the old house was drafty. Every morning when I changed it, I noticed my hand was smaller than his had been. On a Tuesday near the end, he asked me to open the top drawer of his dresser. Inside was a brass key on a leather loop. He put it in my hand. When Evelyn calls you, give this to her. She will know what it opens. Poppy died the way he'd lived, on his own terms, without a fuss, in a room that smelled like sawdust and basil. It was November 12th, 2025, a Wednesday, 4:13 in the morning. I know because I looked at his old Timex on the nightstand. His hand was in mine. It was still warm. I didn't cry right away. I listened to the house. The refrigerator hummed. The hummingbird feeder swung empty in the wind. I called Abe first. He was there within the hour. I called my mother next. Her first words were, when is the funeral, June? I have a thing on the 15th. I hung up. The funeral was that Saturday. Poppy left written instructions. He wanted his blue flannel. He wanted to be buried beside my grandma. He wanted no eulogy from my mother. He wanted Abe to read a poem. They all came. They cried loudly. Tessa filmed the procession. I did not film anything. I did not cry until that night. I want to stop here for a second. If you've walked this far with me, if you've ever lost someone who loved you more than you knew how to receive it, give this story a like and in the comments below, tell me their name. I read every single one. Stay with me. The part that comes next is why I needed you here. My mother called the lawyer before the caterers had cleared the potato salad. Evelyn Hart told me later because Evelyn tells you things in her own time. She said my mother left 4 voicemails by noon. The will reading was December 2nd, 10 a.m. Evelyn's conference room had a clock that ticked louder than any code timer. My mother sat on one side. My dad next to her. Caleb across. Tessa at the end, scrolling until Evelyn asked her to put the phone away. Abe sat beside me. Evelyn opened a Navy folder. This is the last will and testament of Leonardo Miguel Alvarez. Dated January 9, 2023. Witnessed by Abraham Park and Dr. Anjali Chin. She read the specific bequests, the birdhouse to Abe, the tool chest to the high school shop class, the lighthouse mug to me. Then, the principal remainder of the estate, comprising the family residence at 88 Harborview Lane, the surrounding 11 acres, all investment accounts, all remaining personal effects. valued at approximately $24.6 million net of the 4 gifts already distributed. The clock was very loud. The testator leaves the entirety of this remainder to his granddaughter, June Isabel Alvarez. Nobody spoke. Then my mother stood up. "Is this a joke?" "Evelyn, Mrs. Alvarez, please sit down. It is not a joke. It is a legal document." Evelyn read the attached reason clause in the same steady voice. "I leave this to my granddaughter June. She is the only one who visited me on Thursdays. She came for no reason other than love. She cared for me at the end of my life. She never once asked what I had." The lawsuit arrived 5 days later. Undue influence. Filed on behalf of Linda Alvarez, Robert Alvarez, Caleb Alvarez, and Tessa Alvarez. I sat on my kitchen floor and laughed that not good laugh. I called Evelyn. "I will represent you, June, free of charge. I owe your grandfather 40 years of his trust." My dad sent an email. "Family meeting. This has gone too far." I forwarded it to Evelyn. Tessa began posting veiled videos from her car about family betrayal. She lost 5,000 followers in a week when people in Astoria recognized Poppy's kitchen. The case would not be heard until September. I went back to work on Monday. Milo was happy to see me. The safe my grandfather had given me the key to did not contain stocks. It contained proof he had been paying attention. Evelyn drove out to the house with me in June. The hydrangeas were starting. Inside the safe were 3 things. First, a thick legal folder. The will, the notarizations, 3 capacity evaluations Dr. Chin had performed. Every one clean. Second, a bundle of letters, every birthday card I'd ever sent him, beginning with a crayon drawing from when I was 5. He'd kept them all, labeled by year. Third, a leather logbook. I opened it on the floor of his bedroom. On each page in his shaky hand was a date, a few words. March 7, 2014. June came. Brought soup. We talked about Milo's arm. June 19, 2018. June came tired from night shift. We both napped. Every Thursday I'd come. Every single one going back 11 years. 412 entries. I counted them later. On page 203 there was a soup stain. His note, "June spilled." Much laughter. I cried into my sleeve on his bedroom floor while Evelyn stood in the hallway pretending to look at the view. The judge who ruled was Judge Bernadette Ames. She'd gone to high school with Poppy in 1955. She recused herself routinely, but this was close enough. Evelyn walked her through the will, the medicals. Dr. Chin testified. Abe testified. Leo was not influenced by anyone. He was the most unpersuadable man I ever knew. Then the family lawyer cross-examined me. "Miss Alvarez, did you ever suggest how he should allocate his estate?" "No." "Did you discuss his finances?" "No." "Then why, in your opinion, did he leave you everything?" I looked at Abe. "I came because it was Thursday, Your Honor. That was the whole reason." The judge wrote something down. The court finds the will valid as executed. The contest is dismissed. Plaintiffs to bear defendants reasonable attorney's fees. My mother called me her worst daughter in the marble hallway outside courtroom 2. A reporter from the Daily Astrian wrote it down. Caleb followed. "Don't you feel guilty?" I stopped. I turned. "No, Caleb. Not even a little." By the next spring, my mother's real estate side hustle had dried up. Not all at once. A listing canceled. Then another. People in a town that small read the court records. My dad didn't find another foreman job after the mill cut shifts. He'd spent 28 years at one place. Tessa's fiancé found $62,000 of credit card debt she'd hidden and filed for separation in April. She moved back in with my mother by June. Abe and I were at his kitchen table when I read the text about the divorce. "You didn't do this," Abe said. "I know." We sat with it anyway. The thing about Poppy that nobody ever bothered to learn was that he had been quietly paying for the free lunch program at the Astoria Fisherman's Clinic for 31 years. I found out in April, going through his desk. I found a small notebook behind the drawer liner. Every page was a year. 1994, clinic lunches $1,200. 2005, clinic lunches $2,400. New fridge. The running total, $211,450. The clinic where I had volunteered every Christmas. The clinic where Milo's mom got his cast checked for free. My mother sat at my kitchen table in February. She'd taken the bus from Portland. She knocked twice soft. I made tea. She'd lost weight the way grief loses it for you. I read his letter, June, she said. The one Evelyn gave me. He said he remembered a Tuesday in 1998 when I yelled at him for fixing my car for free. He said he forgave me. He'd forgiven me for 27 years. She put her head on her arms. I let her cry. I didn't pat her shoulder. Junie, I would never ask. But the house, $80,000. I could save it. I looked at her. I didn't feel angry. Just tired tenderness. Mom, I'm not giving you money, I said. She nodded. But I'm going to set up a fund in his name, for the clinic. For any kid in Clatsop County who needs a lunch and a cast. That's what I'll do with his money. That's what he would have wanted. She nodded again. She hugged me small for 1 second. Then she left. I gave notice at St. Mary's on a Tuesday in May. By Friday, I'd rented a small cottage in a town in Washington I'd never set foot in, called Grayport. My manager said, "You will be a good nurse wherever you go, June." I set up the foundation with Evelyn, $15 million, the Leo Alvarez Harbor Fund. It would cover lunches, warm clothes, and trade school tools for any kid who needed it. Evelyn wept quietly when I signed. I did not sell the house. I deeded lifetime use to Abe for his grandkids. He painted a sign for the garage, Leo's second shop. I applied for an ER position at Grayport Community, $78,400 a year, the salary I'd always had and intended to keep. My dad left a voicemail in July. Can we meet for coffee? I listened 3 times. Then I wrote one email. Dad, I am not going to stop loving the people you should have been, but I cannot keep writing the letter for you. Take care of yourself. June. The first cup of coffee I drank in Grayport was the worst cup I'd ever had. I laughed out loud in the parking lot. I had the blue flannel in the passenger seat folded. The cottage smelled of cedar and salt. I draped the flannel on the arm of the green wingback chair. It hung the way it used to hang over Poppy's kitchen chair. In the mailbox that evening was a single envelope. Abe's handwriting. Inside, June. Leo knew you'd end up somewhere like this. He told me 10 years ago. He said, June is a coastal soul. It just hasn't told her yet. Welcome home. By the next June, I had an ER bay that faced the harbor and a yellow mutt who believed my grandfather's flannel belonged to him. He walked in through the screen door I hadn't latched. He got on the flannel and went to sleep. I named him Steinbeck. Every morning I had to ask permission to borrow it. On a Saturday in August, I sat on a porch that belonged to me and wrote a letter that didn't need to be mailed. The sun was going down over the water 10 minutes later than it had behind Poppy's Hill. I'd been keeping track. I told him about Milo, who'd sent me a photo of his healed arm, about the 37 kids the Harbor Fund fed that spring, about Steinbeck and the flannel. I told him I'd figured something out. I hadn't won because I had money. I had money now, and most of it was never going to be mine. I'd won because I'd known when it mattered how to sit still with a person who was leaving. Because I'd come on Thursdays for no reason. Because when he'd asked what I'd do with $1 million, I'd said I'd buy compression socks for my unit. And he'd looked at me like I'd said the right thing on a test. I folded the letter. I put it in the cedar box he'd kept by his chair on his birthday, the one I'd brought with me to Washington. I closed the lid. Steinbeck looked at me through the window with the patient disdain of a creature ready for dinner. Coming, I said. I went inside. If this story has reached you, if anywhere in your life there's been someone who loved you more than you knew how to receive it, please tell me in the comments below. Tell me their name and what they taught you about quiet kindness. I read everyone and I carry them with me.